Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Stitch Sessions. Today I thought I would take you through making a granny diamond motif. I've been working on a lot of these different types of granny motifs in my crochet classes, and I thought this would make for a really fantastic tutorial. Just because a lot of people just associate grannies with the squares, but you can actually do many different types of shapes, and this is such a pretty motif that I thought I would take you guys through it. So the yarn that I'm going to use is actually this really beautiful, it's by Loops and Threads. It's called the Rippling Waves Stripe, and I use this in a few other projects, and it's just lovely. It is considered a bulky 5, but it doesn't really feel all that bulky. It's just got a lot of I call it fluff, like it's nice and soft and it expands. So that's the yarn I'm using. You can use any yarn. This is just some leftovers that I had. So completely up to you. In this one I used Caron Cotton Cakes yarn, so it's a little bit on the thinner side, although it is a medium 4. So you can use any yarn weight that you like. And then for this particular tutorial, I am using a 6mm hook, okay? And as always, just make sure you have a pair of scissors and your trusty darning needle for sewing in any ends later on, especially if you're doing several of these. You always want to have that on hand. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so for this motif, we're going to start it with the chain 4 method, okay? So there's several different ways you can start a granny, and I have recently done a tutorial on that. So if you want to check that out, I'll leave it in a link in the description box down below, okay? But for now, we're going to use what I call the chain 4 technique. So you're going to start by placing a slip knot on your hook. And then we're going to chain 4. Once you've chained 4, we want to find the very first chain we made, and we want to slip stitch into it to join our project into a little circle or a ring. Now, if your yarn is a little bit thick, you may want to do a chain 5 or a chain 6, depending on how comfortable you feel with your circle. So I'm pretty okay with that. There's the center right there. And now to begin, so basically the main thing to remember about a granny is it's just the very first round that I call up the setup round. And then all the other rounds after that will be really easy to follow through. So we need to create, the top peaks are slightly different than the side peaks. Okay, so we're going to start with the top peak. And so what we're going to do is we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. This chain 4 counts as the height of a triple crochet stitch. This is the stitch we're going to use to create that top peak, okay? Now we need to chain an additional 3 to create the peak or the corner. So in a granny square, sometimes we would chain 2. Some people chain 3. If you are a tight crocheter, definitely chain 3, okay? So right now we've got a chain of 7. 4 of these chains counts as a triple crochet, and 3 of them count as our corner space. Okay. Now we're going to work into the center of our circle here with a triple crochet. So to make a triple crochet, we're going to yarn over 2 times. Okay. And again, I do have a tutorial on this if you want a super refresher. I'll leave that in a link as well. But for now, we've got our yarning over twice. Then we go into the center of our ring there, okay? And that is where we're going to pull up a loop. You're going to have 4 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over. We're only going to pull through the first 2. You'll have 3 left. Then you yarn over. We'll pull through the next 2. You'll have 2 left. And you'll yarn over, and you'll pull through the next 2. Okay, so you're basically pulling through 2 loops 3 times. I know that sounds like a mouthful. Okay, so now you have something that looks like this. You've got your little ring, and you've got what looks like a V. So remember, the first 4 chains represent a triple crochet. 3 chains is your spacer and your triple. Okay, so What we're going to do next is we're going to do another triple crochet into our ring. So we're going to yarn over 2 times, insert, and then yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2. Okay, so we've got now 2 triple crochets side by side. We're now going to work down the side of that top peak there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to place 3 double crochets into the ring. Okay, so you're only going to yarn over once, insert into the ring, pull up a loop, and you're going to resolve your double crochet as usual. Okay, we do that 2 more times. So that's the second one, and you can work over that tail, by the way, in this project, and 1 more there. Okay, so there we go. So you have 2 triples and 3 doubles. So now we're at the side peaks. Remember, we have the top and the bottom peak, and then we have the side peaks. In the side peaks, what we're going to do is we're going to chain 2. And now we're going to work our way backwards. So we worked 2 triples basically, and then 3 doubles. We're now going to work 3 doubles and then 2 triple stitches, triple crochets, okay? So after we chain 2, we go back into that ring, and we are going to do 3 double crochets. Oops, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so now you can see that there's definitely a corner of some kind being formed, right? This one still looks wonky because it's only half done. So don't worry about that. We're going to get to it. So after the 3 doubles, we're working our way back up. So we need to do 2 triples. So remember, a triple, we're going to yarn over 2 times, insert into the ring, and resolve as we normally do 2 triples. Okay, we're going to do 1 more, 2 times, into the center of the ring. And once we've done 2 triples, we have now come back up to the top or the bottom of our peak. Now this might not look like it because our stitches have filled up the space. So at this point, I like to start kind of squishing this over because I need to make more room, whoops, for more stitches. Okay, so now that makes more sense. This was our top, which is now upside down. Now we're going to work at the bottom peak. So we need to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now we're going to go back in and do 2 more triple crochets. So we yarn over twice, insert, just keeping that tail out of the way. Okay, so you can see that was the first one. And then yarn over twice and do the second one. So it's slowly starting to take shape. So now you can see we're going to work down the other side towards the other side peak. So again, you're going to do 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. Okay, so go ahead and do that, because it's pretty much the same what we did coming up. And then I'm going to meet back up with you when we're ready to do our next triple. So in the next stitch here, I'm sorry, it's 3 double crochets. So into the next, or into the circle here, you're going to do 3 double crochets. So you're going to do 2 more of those. Chain 2, and then 3 double crochets coming out. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. and I'll meet back up with you when you've done that. Okay, so I did my 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. You can see it's getting really kind of tight in there. So don't be afraid to just keep squishing and moving your stitches over, okay? So in hindsight, maybe I should have done 5 chains for my circle, but it still looks pretty okay. And you can really see now that the diamond shape has taken form. So we're basically back up to where we did our chain 4 plus chain 3. So remember that counts as a triple. So we need 2 triples here though, right? So we're going to do 1 triple crochet into that space, right back into the center again. Again, I'm going to try to work over that tail. Okay, pull through 2 and pull through 2, and the last, whoops, careful not to split your yarn, over the last 2. Okay, so now because this counts as a triple crochet, what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into the 4th chain from the bottom. Okay, so we need to make sure that we count 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to insert my hook right into that 4th chain. So remember, the other 3 chains are our spacer for a corner, and I'm going to slip stitch to join. Whoops. And our diamond shape is complete. Okay. So now you can see that we've got the top 2 peaks, or the top and the bottom, and the side peaks. Once you establish row 1, you are good to go. So the most important round, did I say row? It's round, of a shape other than a square, well, I guess anything that starts from the center. The most important is that first round, most especially for a diamond, because it's so specific in the particular corners, okay? So once you've established the center round, the rest, I tell you, is going to be easy, easy, easy peasy, okay? So that's round 1. Let's take you on to round 2. Okay, so round 2, since we are right here, what we're going to do is we are going to slip stitch over into this space here so we can work out of the corner, okay? Now we no longer need to worry about triple crochets anymore. Everything is going to be a double crochet. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 3, and then we are going to do another double crochet into this corner space. So the chain 3 counted as 1, and now we have another one. So from now on, in the corners, we're going to do 2 double crochets and chain 2. Okay, so we no longer need to worry about the chain 3 unless you're super tight crocheter. Remember that. Okay, and now we're going to do 2 more double crochets into the corner space. So there's 1, and there is 2. Okay, just like that. And now, super easy, we're just going to do 1 double crochet into each stitch. So it's a fairly solid motif except for in the corners. The one thing you want to be careful, and this goes for squares, hectagons, octagons, anything, when you're coming out of that corner, you want to be careful that you don't lose this stitch. It's so easy that this stitch kind of snuggles in, and a lot of times people will go right in there. It's important that you push this one aside, because remember, the loops always sit to the right of the stitch when it's right side facing you, okay? So we want to make sure we get that in there. So now we're going to place 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way around. Sorry, all the way to that next corner, not all the way around. So this part, super easy. Don't even have to count. You just find the very next stitch. And there's the next stitch there. So we're motoring along, and we've got 1 more before we've come to our side corner. Okay. So in our side corners now, what we're going to do is we are going to place 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. Okay, so we'll chain 1, and then back into that corner space, we're going to place another double crochet. And this is now going to be your formula for future rows. Like if you want to keep building like 3 and 4 and 5 rows, or rounds, I should say, sorry, not rows. So from now on, once you've done your establishing round, the top and bottom peaks will always get 2 double crochets, chain 2. The side peaks will always get 1 double crochet, chain 1, 1 double crochet. I just like it like that because it's nice and easy to remember. If you are a tight crocheter, you will still need to chain 3 on the top and the bottom and chain 2 on the sides, because you want to make sure that your corners sit nice and relaxed. Otherwise, your work is going to curl in, okay? But if you're average, medium gauge crocheter, this will now be your formula, okay? So again, coming out of the corners, you just make sure that that first stitch doesn't get hidden, and you go back into there, and easy peasy. It's just 1 double crochet into each stitch until you get to your next corner. Okay, and this is the last one. And now I'm back up to one of my tall peaks. So I call these the top and the bottom, the talls and the sides, okay? So it's the tall peak. So I'm going to do 2 double crochets into that corner space or into that peak space. There's 1. And there's 2. At this point, I'm assuming that you are comfortable with double crochet stitches. And now you're going to chain 2. And you will do 2 more double crochets back into that same space, okay? And then the second one. Just like that. So now that top one matches the top one here. Okay, so technically this is the bottom. And now you're going to continue on as before. You move this out of the way. And 1 double crochet into each stitch. And guess what? You're in your shallow point, so it's only 1 double crochet, chain 1, 1 double crochet. Then you're going to continue on the side here, 1 into each stitch. And I'm going to meet back up with you when we get to here. Okay, so I've just done my last stitch, so you can really see the diamond shape is taking form. And I love how with this, the gradient yarn here, it's not really self-striping. Yeah, I guess it's a self-striping yarn. It's just changing the colors so prettily, but you can see the difference too. This one is obviously looking a bit more bulky as opposed to this one. It's a slightly thinner yarn. I also used a much larger hook. Like I used a 6.5 millimeter hook, 6.5. So it just really left the stitches really loose and lacy and really, really pretty. Okay. So that's why this one looks a bit tighter. So just be careful when you're using different types of yarn. Don't be alarmed if it looks slightly different. It'll create different textures. So I've done my last double crochet here. Now, sometimes people think that there's still a stitch here. There is not. This is where we slip stitched and did our chain 3. So that is known as a false stitch. So you don't want to crochet into there because that will increase the number of stitches on this side, making your shape off kilter, okay? So all you're going to do is you're going to find the top of your chain 3 and you are going to slip stitch to join. And that's it. And now for every other round, you will follow this same formula, I like to say. I really like how that came out. So your top 2 is always 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles, 1 into each. And your sides are always 1 double, chain 1, 1 double. And then you repeat. So the top and the bottom are the same, the side and the side are the same. I know I repeat myself a lot, but I just like to make sure that it makes sense to you all. Okay. Now, some of you might be thinking, I hope she shows us the next round because she's not close to a corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you how to start the corner, because what happens is every time you slip stitch, you might get a little further and further away from your corner. That's okay. So because we're not right beside the corner, that's all right. We're going to chain 3 because that counts as a double crochet. And what do we have beside our chain 3? Well, it's not a corner, it's a stitch. So what are we going to do? We're just going to double crochet into that stitch. Okay. And now guess what? Now we're close to our corner. So we would go into our corner as usual with 2 doubles, chain 2, and 2 doubles. Okay, so I think you got the gist now of how to keep going, right? See, so you just work whatever stitch is next to it until you get to a space, and then you're off to the races. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there, guys. I'm going to leave it up to you. You might want to do 10 rounds, 12 rounds. You might want to make a whole blanket just in this shape. It's totally up to you. But the wonderful thing about the diamond shape is you can connect it in so many different ways. You can do it in a flower pattern. You can do it in an offset striped pattern. I mean, this really opens up your world of different motif designs. So I just love this motif. The diamond shape is so pretty. So I hope that you've had fun working on this one, and I hope you really enjoyed it, and maybe it's going to give you some inspiration on a project that you want to do. So, and if you do that, please share it with me. I love seeing some of the stuff you guys come up with. You can also find me on Instagram, as some of you know, at The Stitch Sessions. And you can also find me on my website, which is crochetcrafty.com. And we now have a monthly newsletter where we keep you up to date on all of our latest shenanigans in our crochet classes. And we give you a free crochet pattern with every issue. So please do feel free to sign up for that. I'll leave a link for that in the description box down below. And of course, subscribe if you haven't already so you stay up to date every time we upload a new tutorial here on the channel. We do it every Wednesday morning. And every once in a while, we add a few extra tutorials and videos like our crochet quick chat. So lately, while people have been in quarantine and self-isolation, we've been adding a few more videos up on the channel for your viewing pleasure, and maybe it'll inspire you to get started on some new crafts. So hopefully you are on your way to staying crafty, staying safe and healthy. I wish you a wonderful day, happy crocheting, and as always, take good care. I'll see you guys in the next video.